Hey, Scorpio ladies. What up, DDT? Mr. Gritch. Salute. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Kanisha, if you can go ahead and request. We are live. Hey
Hey,
there.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. It's good to see your face.
You too. Because between texting and Instagram, social media, we're actually face to face. Look at
Yes, yes,
technology.
yes. I
Look at
love it. I love
technology.
it. I know, bringing us together for real.
That's right. October. Let me adjust my camera a little bit.
I know, mine don't want me to be great, but it's fine. We're gonna work it. Okay.
It is October, Breast
It
Cancer
is. It's
Awareness Month.
here.
Yes,
Yes.
where I say in honor of survivors, in support of those in the battle, and in memory of those we have lost, we will continue to spread the awareness, especially with our community, the Black community,
Yes.
spreading the awareness of this vicious, vicious disease, honoring those survivors for Survivor Sunday. So welcome, Miss Kanisha
Thank you. Thank you.
Broadwater.
Thank you.
You look beautiful.
Thank you so
I
much for
love the
having
highlight.
me. This is amazing.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. I'm, slowly, getting a little funkier with my hair, so I'm loving it.
Me
I
too,
found a
girl.
fantastic colorist here, so see,
Yes.
you know it.
I've always been about my just dark hair, short, dark, simple, but I've been kind of
Yeah,
fast the last few months since
I know.
COVID.
Listen, a brush with some crazy will make you more adventurous. Absolutely.
So a little
Absolutely.
pop of color, girl. I'm right there with you.
That's it. That's it.
So
So
I was
I'm
really
gonna live
excited when
my blonde days this
that's right.
year.
So when I decided to do the Survivor Sundays, you were the first person that I thought of that I wanted to talk to.
Oh, that's so sweet.
The first person because
Thank you.
you are such a big part of my story.
Oh,
So let me break
thank
this down. Let me break this
you.
down.
Okay.
So we have a mutual friend
Me too.
by the name of Tamara or Tam.
Yes.
Adore
Yes.
her, adore her.
She
And
is just made with sugar.
isn't she? Just love
She
her.
is just made with sugar. I love
Just
her.
love her. So at that time, I did not know you.
Mm-hmm.
So I shared with her my diagnosis and told her step by step what was going on. And in the beginning, I'd actually hooked up with someone who said they knew the type of surgery that I was going to have,
Mm-hmm.
a mastectomy.
Mm-hmm.
So at that time, I did not know intimately someone who had faced breast cancer, let alone
Mm-hmm.
someone who had faced such a dramatic surgery.
Mm-hmm.
So for whatever reason, I was not able to hook up with this person. Someone was going to help me hook up with someone. So it just didn't happen. Literally the ninth hour, Tam hooked you and I together the night
She
before my
did.
surgery. And when
Yes,
I
I
tell you,
remember.
you remember? When I tell you the
I
total
do.
the calm that you
Oh.
gave me and that
Oh,
gift,
yay.
I said, Tamara, I plan on talking to her forever, but if I never talk to her again, she's my forever best friend because of what she did for
Oh,
me that day.
thank you.
She gave me the
Thank
gift of
you.
you. She gave me the gift of you.
Oh,
So I love and
that's so
adore you.
kind.
I love and adore
I
you.
love you too. Thank you.
So
And
let's talk
it's
about, oh, go
funny.
ahead.
So I was just gonna mention that Tammy had reached out and was like, "Oh, do you mind talking to a friend of mine?" And I was like, "Sure," primarily because I had a person too
That's right.
who was introduced to me through a mutual friend, and actually maybe Julie is here, but we've never met in person either. And
Wow.
she was instrumental as I was going through my journey. She was probably a couple months ahead of me, and
Okay.
she was like, "Listen, if this, or this happens, ask about this, or
That's right.
this is a resource for this," or she was like my person. And so I was more than happy to hopefully impart even a little bit of knowledge to someone else and just to pass it on. So I was more than happy to do it, and I'm so glad that it was helpful, because
Yeah.
sometimes I'm just running my mouth. I don't know if it's helpful or not.
Well, that's called paying it forward. And because you gave me that gift, I wanted to give a gift as well. Because in the beginning, I didn't want to be associated with this disease.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was an old lady disease. I thought I
Mm-hmm.
was going to die. I mean, I had all these thoughts initially.
Yeah.
And once I got beyond it to a certain point, I said, you know what? I have to give the gift to someone else that Kanisha gave to me. I have to do it. And so that's what,
Yeah.
and I have more purpose because of you and what I went through. So thank you so much.
Yay. No
Really
problem. Oh my
appreciate it.
God. I'm so happy. I'm happy we can be here having this conversation. So this is great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about your story. When were
Sure.
you diagnosed and how old were you?
So I had just turned 40. So my birthday is the end of this month.
Okay.
So I turned 40. Had done some traveling. New Year's Eve happens. I'm having a funky good time. And somewhere February, March, I'll be honest, chemo brain is a real thing. So my memory was terrible to start. It has not gotten better. So I do have a couple notes because I know I won't remember. But somewhere February or March, I noticed I had what felt like a rash on my breast. It was a little itchy, a little warm. It was just different than the usual. And so, in my mind, oh, maybe I'm, sweating too hard when I work out and it's the sports bra, all these other things you tell yourself. Tried a couple topical creams. It got incrementally better, but not really. And so the interesting part for me, at least, is that I'm a nurse in radiation oncology. So I work with cancer patients all the time, and I work with physicians that treat cancer all the time. And so I asked a good friend of mine, and I was like, okay, this may be too much information, but also I'm kind of freaking out. Like, what are your thoughts? And he's like, have you had a mammogram? And I was like, I haven't. He's like, because you just turned 40. He's like, so let's go get a mammogram and figure. And I'm like, okay, cool.
That's right.
So I reached out to my nurse practitioner that I see for, primary care. And she was like, you're 40. It's strange, but it could be nothing. Who knows? But you know what? Let's get a mammogram. And I was like, cool, I'm down. So I started that process. It must have been March or so of that year. Got my first mammogram. Then, it was my first one. So to people who don't know, very often when you get your first mammogram, they don't have anything to compare it to.
The baseline.
So they quite often, they need to go back for some more looks. And I was asked to make another appointment for a second diagnostic mammogram. That led to a biopsy. That led to Memorial Day of that year. Somewhere around that weekend, in my mind, I think it was the Tuesday after Memorial Day, because I remember having the biopsy and thinking I had to wait a little longer because Monday was the holiday.
That's right.
And so that Tuesday, I got the phone call from the radiologist. Now, I'll be honest, because I work at the institution, I went on and paged him a little early in the day.
That's right.
I was like,
That's
friend, I need an answer. Like, I'm going nuts. And so he was finally able to get back to me later that evening, and that's when I got the diagnosis. And again, because I'm in the environment I'm in, I know I'm incredibly fortunate, because things don't happen essentially at the pace in which they happen for me for everyone else. Like my surgeon I have worked with for years, and the capacity of my job. And so after I got off the phone with the radiologist, I sent him a quick email. And honestly, it wasn't to curry favor. It was more, hey, I'm going to end up on your schedule. And I think it would be awkward if I didn't tell you ahead of time. Like, I don't want you to open your schedule on Tuesday and you see me and you like, what's happening? What? And so I was like, I just want you to know I'm coming. And he immediately called me back and he was like, no, ma'am, come upstairs right now. And I was like, Oh,
right
okay.
now.
I'm on the
Yeah.
way. He's like,
Yeah.
close the clinic. He's like, finish what you're doing. Come upstairs right now.
That's
And
right.
so I saw him, which was wild. Like, no one, when I tell you, I know no one sees their surgeon within hours of getting a diagnosis. I
That's right.
know that's bananas crazy.
Yeah.
So I met with him. It was very brief, and he said, okay, here's the plan. You need to go do X, Y, and Z. And then we're going to actually have an appointment in a couple weeks. But by that time, I need you to do these things. And he was very clear. And I had always heard him tell other patients, like, you are now the project manager of this job. Like, this is now your job. You need to manage all these aspects. Here's your list of things to do. They had check boxes next to him. It spoke to all the nurse things in my brain. Like, let's check off this box. Let's make this appointment. Let's do this. And he said, when I see you in a couple weeks, have all these things done, and we're going to move on from there. So within that time, I met with our fertility preservation people, because I, was just made 40. And gratefully at my institution, they have options for egg retrieval and things that.
People don't think about that. For women who don't have children, the treatment could affect future fertility issues.
100%.
So can you break that down a little bit and how
important
it was
and
for
so
you?
This was something that was at least on my radar. It wasn't a foreign conversation, because I've had these conversations with patients before. And so when he mentioned it, I was like, oh yeah, let's think about that. So at the time, and currently, I'm single and I don't have any children. And in my mind, I would have children when my husband got here. Like, that's just my personal choice. And so it wasn't really front of mind, but because I still wasn't sure of all the pieces. I didn't know if there was chemo or not. I didn't know what was happening. But gratefully, he was like, no, make that appointment, see those people. So I did. And what it entails is, at least at our institution, the first appointment is a very lengthy day. You meet with all the specialists. You meet with the physician. You meet with the pharmacist to go over medications as it relates to the egg retrieval. You meet with a therapist. You meet with a financial planner. Like, it's a full day. And the navigator who took me through it, who is outstanding. She's like, I need you to block out half your day. This isn't a lunchtime appointment. You need some time to be here. And so I went through all of those appointments, met with all of those people, the therapist in particular being key. She was amazing. And shortly after that, we started, oh goodness, I think it was, if not that day, the next day. Maybe I had a second appointment with her. I can't remember, but it was very soon. There were couriers at my house with medication.
When you get that diagnosis, you hit the ground running. They want you to have that surgery within weeks. Yes.
And so I started injections nightly. They were timed. Anyone who's been through egg retrieval, IVF, it's a situation. Like, you're carrying medications with you. You're checking your calendar. You're getting labs drawn all the time. It was intense. But we got through that, and we got through the retrieval process. So I have a healthy selection of eggs waiting for me to make some decisions in my life. So it was nice to have that option, because, as women, we get a little bit older, and you start to wonder, is your time running out? And you're making decisions, maybe not from a position of strength, and having that security, knowing that they're up here, I can do with them what I choose when I'm ready, really took a lot of pressure off.
Yep, the fear is gone.
Took a lot of pressure off. And so we completed that. I was to meet with a medical oncologist. And so, of course, working there, I had some names in mind, but I didn't really have a preference. They all seem amazing. So I talked to a friend of mine, and, they recommended to the medical oncologist that I ultimately met with, and he was lovely. And then shortly after that, we had to talk about port placement. We were talking about chemo, all the things, And
So you
so
go
my plan was
from
going to be, oh, go ahead.
you go from a rash on your breast
Yeah.
to now a series of life-changing appointments
Yes.
and
Yes.
so much to think about. Whether
Yes.
you're in the healthcare profession or not, I mean, you could either feel more confident or be even more terrified because of what you
Yeah.
witnessed. How did you really
Yeah.
feel during all that?
Honestly, and I'll be so truthful with you, there was never a moment that I thought that I wasn't going to be okay.
Okay.
I knew I was going to be okay. And I don't know, and maybe it was a combination of things, my faith, my family,
That's right.
the confidence that I have in the people that I work with. That was never a worry.
Wow.
So it was a lot. And I mean, I will be transparent. As a nurse, there is a little bit of compartmentalizing that we often do where you're like, okay, work is over here,
That's right.
home is over here, you know.
You
So
have to.
I kind of just put my head down and got to it. Like, okay, let's
Mm-hmm.
just start checking things off the list. And that busyness honestly got me through a lot of it because I didn't have a lot of idle time in the
That's right.
beginning. I just had to get stuff done, you
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah.
so we got to work. Like I think my biggest fear, I never had surgery of anything. I've never
Right.
broken a bone. I'd
Me
never done
too.
anything. So
Yeah.
I was a little concerned about like how is this gonna feel? Is this gonna be incredibly painful? I had to get a port placed. And listen, I had all sorts of suggestions for the doctor when it comes to can we do the scar differently? Because I'm afraid I may keloid. And he looking at me like, girl, no. But I
Right.
mean, it's interesting. But
I think it's
no.
beautiful that you had relationships with these doctors and nurses ahead of time where
Yeah.
you didn't have to build the trust, because for me, it was totally
Yes.
different. I met these
Yes.
people as I met them, and
Yeah.
I was blessed to feel
Yeah.
really, really good with each of my doctors. So for
Yeah.
you, it was totally
Yeah,
different.
and a friend mentioned very early on, she was like, I know this is awful. She was like, but you have to realize that you are perfectly placed to deal with this. And I will never forget, it was true. Like
Yeah.
I knew them all. I mean, maybe not personally, but definitely by reputation.
That's right.
I knew that they were going to be an integral, good part of my team. So yeah, I
That's
was pretty
right.
fortunate like that.
So what was the next
So
step
yeah,
after
shortly.
that?
So we got the port place. I got my port place on a Thursday, and we had chemo on Friday. I mean, it went really quickly. And
How many weeks
there
of
was some
chemo did you have to do?
So my plan was going to be a total of 6 months of chemo. I was going to do my regimen was Taxol and AC, for those of you who are familiar with some of the medications for chemo. And so Taxol is given weekly. And then, so that was going to be the first 12 weeks. And then I was going to go to AC, which is a little more intense, and it's given every 3 weeks. So that was the plan. So I was working. Everyone seemed to think Taxol was a little better tolerated by
Okay.
patients. And so after talking with my chemo nurse, I said, so what do you think? Like, do I need to take, because I was concerned about not so much being away from work, but the financial aspect of it all. Because again, I'm single. Like,
Yeah,
it's my income supporting me, you know,
that's
and
right.
I was concerned about how I would fare through this with just one income and knowing
Something
that I
that
would
you
have to
should
take
not
some
have
time
had to
off.
even consider. Something you
I
should
know,
not have
I
had to
know,
consider.
for sure. And it was definitely like, you know, we have good benefits and things. And I know that there's short and long-term disability and all that stuff, but you know, you can't really wrap your head around that number. Like, oh, long-term disability is
Mm-hmm.
60% of your income. No, what does that
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like,
Yeah,
can I pay
yeah,
my bills? Like, how is
that's
this
right.
gonna work? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was talking with her and I was like, do you think I can work? And when do I need to maybe not work? And so she was very clear. She's like, I think you can work through the Taxol. I think it will be a challenge, but I think you could do it if that's what you wanted to do. And I was like, well, maybe I'll just work part-time through an AC. And she was like, no, ma'am. She's like, you need to take time off work. When it gets to AC, you need to go sit down. And
Sometimes
she
we
was
need
very
to
clear.
just sit
And
down somewhere.
yes. And you know what, Cheron, she gave me the look that I've given to so many patients.
That's right.
Like, that's cute, but it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And she gave me that look, and I was like, you know what? We don't have to talk about it no more. I know that look. That look means I'm being a little ridiculous, and I should go sit down. And that's what I did. Right. So I worked for the first 3 months, and it was, I'll be honest, it's a blur. I mean, God bless some people for letting me come to work every day, because I don't remember any of
a thing. A whirlwind.
So it was just a whirlwind. Like, I remember obviously getting up and going to work, but the details are beyond me. So I worked kind of on it was less than full-time situation. I would work full-time on the days that I didn't have chemo. And thankfully I work 4 days a week. So typically I would have chemo Thursday afternoons. I would work maybe half the day Thursday afternoon, and then I would have the weekend to kind of recover. Back at it on Monday. Sister friends, I talk about them all the time. They, you know, and I think them in combination with being a nurse and knowing what I've advised other patients to do, they wanted to help. They wanted to do something. And I know from being a provider that sometimes you need to give people like tangible things to do. And that makes them feel like they're helping. You get the help that you actually need, not that someone else thinks you need. So they were like, what can we do? What can we do for you? And I was like, okay, here's the Google spreadsheet. These are my chemo days. I need a ride home because I won't be able to drive after the medication. Y'all can keep me company. We can do games or not. I mean, honestly, when we get together, we just talk so much that we don't get time to do games. But I needed some chemo buddies, you know? Yeah. And so that way I wouldn't be, I didn't want to feel like I was creating such a burden for my parents. I'm very grateful in that they live really close to me, so they were able to help out tremendously. But I wanted to be able to utilize my girlfriends to kind of help support them, support me, and just kind of we can all do it together. And they were fantastic. Some days, I don't know how we didn't get kicked out the chemo room, because we were loud and cackling and having a funky good time. I think Naja might be on here, so she knows.
And that really helped you get through it.
Yeah, they were instrumental.
So that was the first part of your treatment. The chemo was the first part.
Yes.
Let's back up. What was the specific diagnosis?
Yeah, so I had stage 3 infiltrating ductal carcinoma on the left side. So my treatment plan was going to include the chemo. Then we would go to surgery for mastectomy, which gets interesting. And then after that, I would do radiation.
So 40 years old, 40 and 2 months?
40 and some change,
and
girl.
Some change. And the doctor tells you have stage, not 1, not 2, but 3.
3, yeah.
The strength of a woman, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
To conquer that and take that head on the way that you did.
Yeah, it was not. And so I'll be honest, in my mind, it didn't, the staging really wasn't something that was weighing on me. Like, you know, would I have wanted it to be stage 0? 100%. But in my mind, we had 2 categories. You get chemo or you don't. And that's where my head was at. And I knew I was getting chemo, and I was like, okay, well, let's fight. Let's do this.
Let's figure it out. Yeah.
Let's figure it out. Absolutely. And
so you had your surgery.
Yeah. Had surgery. So even right before the surgery, so, you know, I finished chemo. And so then you get more imaging to kind of see where we are after we've completed the chemo. And so thank you, Jesus, I had a complete remission before we even got to surgery. which
Amazing.
I have been told by a couple of my doctors that in this particular type of cancer, my stage and all that, they have not seen. And so I'm
And
so
that was
grateful. So
after what,
and
6 months of
that was after
chemo?
6 months of chemo. Yep. Yep.
Amazing.
Had a complete response. And I was so grateful because my good friend, who may not be on here, who's also my physician, he was able to call and give me the good news. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited. And my girlfriends were coming over that weekend. And so here's me, no hair, half for energy. And I was like, I'm making the cake because we
That's
celebrating
right.
today.
We have to celebrate. So if it was
they
in
came over and we
remission,
had such a good.
if it was in
Yep.
remission, why did you then have to have surgery? How does that work?
Yes. So that was the interesting part. So in the beginning, this was the plan: chemo, mastectomy, radiation. Because I had a complete remission, my surgeon, when I checked in with him, he was like, we could investigate maybe just doing a lumpectomy if that's what you wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
He said, so give it some thought. Let me know what you think. And I thought about it. And I'm definitely, me and my friends have laughed, I'm definitely a bit of a completionist. Like, I
Yeah.
need to do all of the things.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think my soul would have let me rest in that fear that we all go through anyway. Is it coming back? How am I doing? Kind of thing. I didn't think that I could sit with the decision of just doing a lumpectomy, and I opted to keep with the original plan and do the mastectomy.
Yeah, I can imagine exactly how you felt
Yeah,
in that moment for sure.
yeah.
Because after
And
going
so,
through
yeah,
6 months of chemo, and even if it was
yeah,
a lumpectomy, that's still major surgery, all
it's
to
still,
offer to just come back, and you don't want to live with
I
regrets and
can't.
something like this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't live with that regret. So I was like, you know what? I felt a conviction about it in my soul. I felt, I prayed about it. I talked to my family and friends about it, and I still felt good with that decision. And I still do. I don't regret it at all, despite all of the crazy that happened after. I don't regret it.
Yeah, yeah. And
So,
and you've shared some of the intimate details of the surgeries. Um,
yes.
you don't have to share all those details today.
Oh, girl, I'm an
Um,
open book. So,
okay, well share on.
so we went to surgery January. Yep, I think it was January.
Yep,
Went for
6 months later.
mastectomy. Yeah, went for mastectomy. At the time, we had a plan for reconstruction. And so that meant for me, we would do the mastectomy and then we would also place a tissue expander at that same time. And what that does, the tissue expander, imagine a very rigid balloon, and that
Mm,
it's in place and it's inflated periodically in order to stretch your tissues so your tissue can house the implant. And so
that's right.
eventually you'll have your expander, but eventually you go to surgery to remove the expander and place the permanent implant.
So it's a
So that
process,
was the plan.
a handful of surgeries
It's
for
a
that.
process.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. More surgeries than you think.
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah.
sounds like a one and done kind of situation when you're
Yeah.
talking
It's
about
not.
it, but turns out it's not.
It's not.
So we did that. I think I spent 2 days in the hospital, 1 or 2 days.
Hmm.
Went home with some drains. I was totally expecting that. Also went home with a pain pump that was implanted. And I could hit it it was giving me continuous medication, but also I could hit it
Hmm.
every now and then if I
Sounds
needed
like
something
epidural.
extra. Um, Yes, it was. It was like a mini epidural. And so I go home with it. And here's my problem, Cheron. I have a little bit of information about what goes on, combined with the fact that I rarely ask a lot of questions.
Right.
So I got home. I was like, and I went to an appointment. I said, so who takes this pump out? And they were like, oh, you do that at home. I was like, whew, Jesus, I mean,
I know I'm a nurse
been
and all, but
I was like, ooh, I wasn't prepared for that answer, but all right, here we are. And so I went
right.
home, and the pain wasn't awful. I mean, I was uncomfortable.
Okay.
It took some
Yeah.
readjusting, but it wasn't unbearable by any means. I felt like I was doing all right. Um, so we did that, and by this time I was at home. You know, I was off work. I'd been off work at
Yeah.
this time for probably about 3.5 months or so, because that final 3 months of chemo, I took my medical leave. So I
Good
was
for
at
you.
home recovering, you know, doing all the things. Folks were coming over. They were so gracious to bring food, or, oh my
Food.
gosh, my girlfriends are always bringing groceries or sending food. Just people were lovely.
You even
So
gave
we
me a
did the surgery.
contact, and I got my house cleaned a couple of times for free. Remember, you gave me that
Girl,
contact?
listen,
Yep, you hooked me
yes,
up.
because, and
Yep.
I think I told you, the minute I was out of the complete devastation of the
Yeah.
diagnosis, I sat down and I Googled breast cancer, free stuff.
That's right.
Like, somebody needs to come up behind this
Yep.
nonsense.
Yep. My
And
house
that's when
was
I found the
spick and
company that'll
span.
come clean your house,
Uh-huh.
and just whatever other resources that I could find that I could utilize at this
That's
moment.
right.
And it was great. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so we went to surgery, and there was gonna be, you know, some recovery time and time to kind of get back to my normal energy and activity level and stuff like that. So it wasn't as intense as I thought it was going to be, surprisingly. Through all of this, I've come to learn that apparently I have quite a high pain tolerance. So, you know, who knew? I didn't know, but I knew that Norco made me too sleepy. So I
Right.
couldn't be on that all the time.
I was on the perks the whole time,
Yeah, yeah,
which you got to
yeah.
be careful with those.
Yeah,
For
yeah, for
sure.
sure. I mean, all of
Yeah.
them. And I wasn't driving. That was the other piece, because, you know, as you
Yeah.
know, there are a lot of appointments you have to make after that.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
so it
right.
was just a matter of, you know, finding people to get me to appointments, because I was, you know, at least periodically taking pain medicine where I didn't feel
That's
safe
right.
to drive.
That's
So,
right.
yeah. So,
So
yeah,
following the surgery, yeah.
hmm Oh, so after surgery, you know, had some recovery time, had a few more appointments. I think a month after surgery, we went to radiation. And so that's where I work. That's where all my people are.
Wow.
And so I, you know, had an appointment with my friend slash physician.
Position, yeah.
Um, and I work at a university-based hospital. And so, you know, you have residents that come in. I knew the resident, obviously. And so he comes into the room, and how the setup kind of gets, like, the resident will kind of give you the prelim, you know, highs of the
Right.
story.
Yeah.
And then the attending physician comes in.
Will come
And
in
so the
after.
resident,
Right.
right, the resident comes in, and my mom is with me. And he's like, well, Kanisha, you know, how do you want me to go about this? And I was like, listen, first of all, I definitely took some Norco today. So and my memory already bad. I ain't gonna remember this. So how about you tell my mom, like,
That's
give
right.
her the whole rundown as you would explain it to a person who didn't have a medical background, so she's comfortable and she
That's
can
right.
really understand what's happening.
What's going on?
But I was like, in my head, I'm like, okay, well, Jonathan's gonna write my prescription for the radiation, and I'm gonna come here every day. And oh yeah, I forgot about that. I was in the clouds. Like, I barely remember it, but I knew I was in good hands. Like, I felt comfortable doing that because I knew I was in good hands. And
But that
I
must
think my
have been
mother,
quite a homecoming, though, because that would have been the first time they've seen you in months, right?
yeah, and I think, yeah, because
Except for those
I
who may have
didn't
visited
go
you.
by the clinic. Yeah, I didn't go by the clinic very much while I was under treatment. You're right. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, that's
Wow.
correct.
Wow.
So that was I think probably the first time I was back in the department.
Yeah.
And definitely, you know, as women, you know, your appearance changes with chemo.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus,
Yeah.
the 30 pounds I gained behind the prednisone during chemo.
Yeah.
Girl,
Tough.
I look like somebody just put an inner tube in my face. You can scroll back on my feed and you can see the pictures. I'm like, my face like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
But you know, it was different to be in that environment, not as the provider, but as the patient.
That's right.
And so, but it was good. My coworkers are lovely and just And correct, they're like my work family now. I tell them all the time. They're incredibly supportive. So, you know, you have your first consultation appointment, and then I had to go back for the planning session for the radiation. And these sneaky people, I walk into the room to do the planning session, and they have created this monstrous gift basket that I can't even lift on my own. I had to have people help me bring it up to the car because they were just so kind and so giving, and I'm so grateful for them. It was great. It was great. So shortly
people
after
like that along the way, I mean, between those people, your coworkers, your work family, your friends, your parents, I mean, you remember. You forget a lot. 100%. It's a blur. Most of it is a blur.
I forget so much, but I remember what each of those people did for me. Absolutely. That's right. And I'm forever grateful because you truly can't do it by yourself. You cannot.
No, you cannot.
I can't envision how you could do it alone. And so I was very grateful and very fortunate to have this massive village of people to come. I mean, my good friend best friend who lives in Australia, she was coming home and she came to appointments with me, and I mean literally worldwide. We had everybody
international.
It was international, girl. We had people from everywhere helping me out, and I'm so fortunate. So so we started radiation. And then that's every day for 6 weeks, the total of 30 sessions. And, you know, because I have knowledge of what to expect, because this is what I was doing with patients every day, was explaining to them what to expect going into radiation. So it was interesting to be on the other side of that. And in my mind, I always knew what position I was in, but it really didn't become actually surreal to me until that very first day when I was on the table. And I was laying on the table and I was like, well, we're here, huh?
Here we are.
Here we are.
Same room, different position though, for sure.
Man, I am fully the patient today, huh?
Wow.
Okay.
And you had to submit in that moment, right?
Yes.
In that moment, because, in that room where you are usually the caretaker or caregiver.
Yeah.
And now you're being taken care of.
Yes. And my coworkers, I've always had nothing but the utmost respect and faith in what they do. But you know, you get to a different level of respect for people when now they're giving that to you know.
That's right.
And it was harrowing for sure, but I felt so comfortable because, you know, I see them every single day. You know, they're my friends. We're going, you know, after work to get, you know, drinks and appetizers or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
you had a relationship with them.
I had a relationship with them already, which just grew tenfold because now they're taking such good care of me, you know.
Wow, amazing.
So we got through radiation, and I got to hit the gong. We have a gong in our department, so on the last day, we hit the gong. So we did that, and we went to brunch after. So all of my girlfriends, my family, my brother came. Like, it was like 15 people,
celebration.
And we were waiting. Tammy came. We were waiting on 1 or 2 people to come. So I took over the lobby. All my friends and family in the lobby, probably making too much noise.
So
what's
the celebration?
It was great. It was just great. So we finished that up. So that would have been April, maybe late March, early April, I think.
So about a year.
I think I finished radiation. Yeah, it was about a year. And so the next point was going to be me going into reconstruction. And so, like we mentioned earlier, it was approaching time for that expander exchange, where they take out the expander and they put in the permanent implant. And so we did that in late June. And I was like, okay, let's do this, you know? And so let me back up a little bit, because when I went back to work, that very first week I was back at work, I didn't feel great. And I felt like maybe I had a low-grade fever, something was up, I wasn't really sure. But I was like, whatever, it's fine, I'm at work, da-da-da. So I just kind of went along my day. And my coworker, she was so sweet. She came to give me a hug to welcome me back. And then I was off having a conversation with someone else, and she walked up 5 minutes later and she set a glass of ice water at my desk. And she was like, "Oh, just have some water." And she walked away. And I was like, "Oh, that was nice, okay, whatever." And then she came back later and she's like, "Kanisha, I hugged you and you were so warm. You were so warm. I thought maybe you needed some ice water." Mm-hmm. And I was like, huh. And at the same time, I was having like some itchy warmness around the expander. So I reached out to my doctor and they were like, "You might have a little bit of cellulitis." And I was like, okay. So I talked to a plastic surgeon. We started me on some antibiotics. A little bit after that, we were going into the implant exchange. And my surgeon was like, I don't think we should alter the plan because I think ultimately what we need to do is get that expander out. And I was like, okay, cool. Mm-hmm. So we took the expander out. We put in the implant. And, I was like, well, the summer is about to begin. Like, we got
let's get this done.
Things happening. I'm trying to be in these streets. Like, I've had a year of crazy.
That's right.
Like, let's do this.
That's right.
And so I had the expander exchange on a Friday. And he was very clear. He's like, the recovery is really easy. You can go back to work on Monday. That's fine, whatever. A week later, I had gone out with some friends. I got home. Later that evening, I started to have something leaking from the surgical side, from where the implant was. And I was concerned, but I was like, okay, it's Saturday, it's the weekend. Let me see how this does tomorrow. Either way, on Monday, I can check in with somebody or everybody, whatever. So that's what I did. I was like, it's fine. I'll see them all on Monday.
See somebody, right.
So I called on Monday, and my plastic surgeon was amazing in that his initial demeanor isn't warm and fuzzy. And I tell people all the time, like, I don't need warm and fuzzy. I'm going to get a hug from my friends. I need you to be good at what you do.
My plastic surgeon was the same way. The exact same way.
Yeah, I need you to be good. And he was always lovely. And more importantly, I could pretty much come in whenever. Like, if I had a question, I needed to go in. Okay, come in 20 minutes. Like, they were fine with it. So I popped in to go see him, and I explained what was happening. And he took a beat and he looked at me and he said, the implant has to come out. And I was like, okay. Was shocked, wasn't ready for it, knew something was up, but didn't know what that meant. And him saying it, solidified kind of your worst fears, is that the implant's going to have to come out. And what does that mean now?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
Because you knew there were risks, like there are in any surgery, that your body might reject that implant.
Absolutely.
For my God.
But you also are
surgery.
You're like, but it's gonna be fine for me though.
Yes, right. I'm not one of those whatever percents. Yeah.
That's not gonna be my story. And so when he said it, I was like, okay. And so in going to this appointment, like I said, I was at work and I left all my stuff at work because I was just going to pop over and he was going to give me whatever solution that we were going to take care of in steps. What I didn't realize is we were taking the implant in, we were taking it out right there.
At that moment.
In the office. Not in a surgical suite. This wasn't a big surgery. I wasn't going to need anesthesia and all. He's like, so we're going to take it out now. And I was like, oh, so right now?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. And I was like, okay. I'm real concerned about the pain. I had two issues. How bad is this going to hurt? And do I just need Ativan or something right now? Because I'm feeling like I'm on the edge. Yeah. Like, this is a lot to process in 7 minutes, And so
but that was how critical it was for you to have to
right
get
now,
out right there in that
moment. It has come out right now.
Room. Yeah,
right now. And so he explained very calmly that he would numb me very well, that it would not be painless, but it would be more so uncomfortable because I would, and this may be graphic for Instagram, but I would feel the tugging as he, removed the implant. And so we did it right there in the office. And I called my good friend, one of my dearest best friends. Her name is Megan. She's a nurse too. And I want to recommend to anyone, if you don't have a nurse in your life, you need one. Even the nurse needed a nurse in her life, you
That's
know,
right.
because she was honestly my person who could explain to the rest of my friends and family what was going on in terms that they could understand, but was conveying what was going on.
Yeah.
And so
that makes a lot
she's
of
literally,
sense.
her and my mama are my, in case of emergency contacts. Like, and so even through the craziest part, they were like, you want us to call your mom? I was like, call Megan. Call Megan, and Megan will call my mom, and then they'll work it out from there. But call her.
Yeah.
And so we took the implant out, and I still had to go back to my desk and get all my stuff because I knew I couldn't stay at work because I was beyond devastated, beyond crushed. I mean, it's just so unexpected, and
I remember talking to you during that time. Yeah.
It was rough, and I didn't realize
talking to you.
how much of a toll that needing to change my perception around my physicality, I didn't realize what it was doing to me. And so I went to my desk, got my stuff. I was like, listen, I got to go home. They were like, yeah, absolutely. Like, because of course my coworkers, we sit on top of each other. Like we're close, you know. And my good friend Lauren, she's sitting there, she's like, so you're going home? I was like, I'm going home. And she's like, okay, all right, let's get your stuff. Let's do this. Can you get home? And I was like, I can drive home, you know. And so I talked to them and my physician friend, and, you know, I had to go home and, you know, kind of regroup and really process what had just happened. And, you know, one thing that really weighed on me was, again, because I had plans to be in these streets.
Hello?
So
hot
now it was going to be a hot girl summer. I was ready. And so as I'm leaving the office, I left in such a flurry because I was still processing. Like I truly only remember bits and pieces of getting home that day. I didn't have a conversation with my doctor about what I was going to do for my appearance, really, because prior to this, I had an expander, I had an implant. So now I'm at home and I don't know what to do other than to stuff my bra like a 12-year-old. But I knew that wasn't sustainable.
So what you're saying is you had one breast and the other one was, the appearance was flat because you had a mastectomy. Yeah.
Exactly. It's just flat. It's a little bit of sagging skin, but it's not a mound. It's not a breast. It's not, you know, it doesn't give you any profile. And so my concern in that aspect was, I mean, because again, let me be clear. I always knew health-wise I was going to be okay. So that wasn't my worry. My worry, and, you know, though it sounds, as you say it aloud, it sounds a little narcissistic or
not at all.
Based in physical. Not at all.
You're a woman first. You're a woman first.
It was a concern. It was a concern. And my thought was, when I see my friends, I don't want them to hug me and whatever I've constructed collapses. That felt like...
You want to be confident. Yep.
Exactly. It felt like it would be too much for me to deal with. So I didn't know what I was doing about that. So at the moment, I'm just stuffing my bra and trying to be better. And so in the process, I went to my plastic surgeon's office for a follow-up appointment. And the young lady who was checking me out, she's like, you know, Kanisha, you left in a hurry, and I understand why. She's like, but we need to get you a prescription for some prosthetics. And I was like, oh, that's a thing? Yeah. Right. And in all my years of talking to breast cancer survivors, I had no knowledge about this particular area.
There's so much you don't consider when you're going through it. So much you don't consider,
so much you don't know. And I didn't know. And so I was like, well, how does that work? And she's like, well, we write you a prescription and then you go to Nordstrom's. Nordstrom's?
Really?
Yeah. Like,
I didn't know that either.
Listen, I was floored. So she gave me all the information. I made an appointment. And turns out Nordstrom's had, listen, Nordstrom's, if y'all listen and y'all want to hire me, I'm here, ready, because it was such a good experience. So they have professional fitters who fit you for a prosthetic.
Wow.
And then
Who
they
knew?
show you different bras that can work with that prosthetic. And they have a program. You can use your insurance. If they accept a lot of insurances, but you can't use your insurance. But then also they have a program that if you buy a bra or a swimsuit from Nordstrom's, their seamstress or sewing team will sew a pocket in for free for you to place your insert.
Wow.
And that blew my mind. So I was like, okay, let's do that. So I made the appointment. When I tell you this little girl came around the corner, I had all the attitude she never wanted. Because I'm like, this little girl ain't going to be able to tell me nothing about what I'm going through.
Yeah.
And she about 2 seconds from getting cursed out. I ain't even let her open her mouth yet. I mean, Cheron, I was in a way. Like, I was at peak ready to curse somebody out. Like, it was going, she was about to get all this smoke and she didn't want it. And so she took me into a room. And when I tell you that little girl had more knowledge in her head than I would have ever given her credit for. I feel bad. The things that I thought about her.
She didn't know what you were thinking, though. She didn't know what you were thinking.
Thank goodness. Oh, I hope so. And so she got me together. I walked out of there with bras, with a prosthetic, and with honestly, like, confidence that I could walk through the world not, you know, ready for somebody to shine a light, like the jig was up, like they knew I was faking.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
And I mean, what even does faking it mean? But you know what I'm saying? Like, it was a game changer. It was a game changer. Mm-hmm. And so we did all of that. And then just to get through the surgery piece, we had a plan he's like, what do you want to do? And when I first presented to the office, they kind of laid out 3 options. So option number 1 is the expander to implant. Option number 2 is the surgery where they take a piece of your back and then try to fashion something just to kind of keep the area. If you're not really going for a full, you know, breast kind of situation, they'll take muscle from your back and kind of put it over the area that has surgery. And then the third option was the Cheron procedure, where they take muscle and skin and fat from your stomach and reconstruct the breast. And so
that's what I
was going to option to do that one. That's what you had. Exactly.
Flat.
And so I was like, okay, well, let's do that. That sounds cool. And then they started to say things like tummy tuck and lipo and
girl,
all sorts of.
When I was presented with all the options, I said, I have this hanging belly that I probably won't ever get rid of after having these 2 babies in 2 years. Let's go for it. If I got to go through this hell of surgery, I might as well have a flat stomach at the end.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So we opted for that. I wasn't going to do that. We needed time for me to heal. So I wasn't going to do that until we had planned for, at least not before November. Because I was going to Hawaii with my girlfriends in October.
We got to schedule around that.
Celebrate being done. Yeah. So he was like, no, we're not doing this before that. And I was like, fine. So went to Hawaii, had an amazing time with my friends, came back, and then December, we plan to go back to do the procedure to remove from my stomach, recreate the breast. Went in for that. It was a very long surgery. I mean, obviously you're there sleeping, you don't realize how long, but turns out it was about 12 hours or so of surgery. I had already anticipated with their guidance that I would spend 2 days in the critical, ICU unit. And then, from there I go to the floor, from there I go home. I got out of surgery pretty late into the evening, was in the recovery. I don't imagine it was very long. And I felt some wetness underneath the surgical area. Called the nurse, had her come take a look, and I was just bleeding profusely. So much bleeding. So here we go back to surgery.
Because that, for those who don't know, that's microsurgery.
Yes.
Where they piece together
Yes.
your nerves, and
Yes.
it's major
It's
surgery.
major surgery.
And
It's
that's why you're
major
in
surgery.
ICU for a couple of days. I know my doctor was monitoring it throughout the day from home. It's that
Oh,
critical
100%.
because it could
Yeah,
die.
like
The flap could die in that
there's a
spot.
monitor that is listening for the
Yes.
tones of
Mm-hmm.
the blood rush going through the veins. Like you're looking
That's,
for
yep.
this Doppler tone. And
That
they're
lives
listening
with
to it all
you.
day and all night.
That lives
Yeah.
with you the first couple of days until they
Yeah,
feel
which is
comfortable enough to
why
take
part
it
of the
out.
reason
It's
you're
a
in
lot.
the ICU,
That's right.
because you need people monitoring that
Mm-hmm.
constantly.
That's right.
And so I had to go back to surgery. Excuse me, I think that was the first time I said, call Megan. Don't call my mom. Call Megan and she'll call my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was late. It was 1 or 2 in the morning. We go back for emergency surgery, come out. Things are looking better. But my blood pressure was a mess, was very low. My heart rate was high, my blood pressure was low, all, concerning enough to add medication to stabilize my blood pressure. And so we had that one piece. That's already enough. That's plenty.
Yeah.
But this surgery, this donor material from my abdomen just wasn't behaving like he wanted to. So in total, I think I had, honestly, I have to really count to remember, but I think I had somewhere between 4 and 6 surgeries that week, and I was in ICU for a full week.
That week?
Full week. Yeah, that week. And so so we come out of surgery that first night. I went back. When I came back from surgery, it must have been the second surgery that I went in, or maybe it was the third. This is what I mean. My memory is terrible. But at one point, Megan had come to see me that morning before she went to work. And so we knew when she was leaving for work, that I was going back to surgery. I think this was now for the third time. And I think that's when she got real concerned. And like Megan, for me to be level-headed, she's even more level-headed. And so she left and she rallied the troops. Like she called all my friends. She was like, listen, she's going back, and she was concerned, and she did the phone tree. And when I woke up from that next surgery, I looked up and I was like, how do y'all get in here? This gotta be against somebody's rule. I'm pretty sure it's too many of y'all in here. We don't get in trouble. And they like, girl, shut up. You hire drugs.
That's the village.
The village showed up. My parents were in the lobby. The girls were in the room. They were taking turns switching in and out. My best friend Tiffany, she slept in a chair overnight. Like they showed up. They showed up. And
because that was
very
grateful. The toughest moment. Was that the toughest moment of this whole process?
That was, honestly, for me, that part was difficult. But because I was so out of it, I remember bits and pieces of it. I remember them being there. I remember them laughing. Naja saying that we travel in packs. She's not lying. And so
hey,
that part was difficult for sure. But again, I was so in the thick of it. It was just like, tell me what I need to do next. I think my most difficult part for me mentally was after the implant initially came out.
Right.
When that implant came out, that really rocked my world. Like I wasn't planning for that. Like that was and that was the other thing. It was supposed to be the last thing I had to do.
The last thing.
And suddenly it was the precursor to all these other things that I had to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that really messed with me mentally. So for a long while, I kind of sat with it and I thought I was doing fine. And then I realized one day I looked up and I was like, ooh, I'm depressed. Like, yeah, it's official. And right around that time, my physician friend, Jonathan, he gave me a call. And this is when I realized how observant he is. He's more observant than I gave him credit for. He called and he said, how are you? And I said, oh, I'm good. I'm multitasking, doing 30 things. He's like, how are you doing, though?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, if I'm being honest, not the best. I was like,
Yeah.
but I made an appointment with my therapist. I got some plans. I'm working on it. He was like, okay, I could tell you weren't quite you. And I was like, yeah, you're about right. And so I got to the therapist, and shortly after that, I had tickets for Beyonce concert. Now, anyone who knows me
We're
knows
not
I
missing that.
love Beyonce.
Oh, we're not missing that. The show
Love
must
me
go
some
on.
Beyonce. And she was coming, and I knew I wanted to go. And a friend of my friend was getting friends together, tickets to go. And while I love her, like we aren't super close, but I didn't care. I was like, I'm coming, and I'm gonna be friends with whoever you bring, because we all gonna sit in this box and we gonna enjoy Beyonce. And I will tell you, that was the first time in months that I felt like I was getting back to me.
Wow.
And it was such a actually, I can cry right now. It was such a monumental moment for me, and it sounds crazy because it's Beyonce. Like, I mean, she's amazing. Don't trip. But it shouldn't be such a turning point, you would think, in my life. And I was telling my therapist I was gonna see her again. I was like, it just really did something for my soul to go, and just the activity of going and being out with friends and feeling like I'm kind of back to me. And it really kind of really did something for me. And that's such a turning point. And I mean, honestly, I got a tattoo that says flawless on my arm, just because that moment really kind of made me remember that despite the scars, despite everything that's happened, I'm still perfect.
That's right.
I'm perfect. And so I wanted to memorialize that feeling, and that's when I got my tattoo. So
that's so beautiful. Because when you're in the middle of it, and then you're able to release and be you and be around the woman that you love, Beyonce. With her positive spirit, her positive music, it's like, there's life beyond what I'm dealing with in this moment. There's life beyond that.
Absolutely.
And finally I can feel normal. And I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to be okay.
Yep. Yeah. And even my therapist was she's like, I completely understand why you identify with that. She's like, that makes perfect sense to me. She was like, so part of your homework is you need to listen to more of her music. Like, if that is what's making you happy, you need to make that an integral part of your life. And I was like, so she just told me that Beyonce was like therapy. I mean, so basically, sisters, right?
We need to hook up with Tam, because Tam got the hook up now. I need Beyonce to hear this story.
Listen, girl, don't even.
Tam is the reason why I even met Beyonce one time. It's because of Tam. Beyonce needs to hear this story for sure.
But for sure. I mean, that concert, just the activity of going, of being back within myself, of hearing those words. And her music is very uplifting, and she's very about women empowerment, and
absolutely,
it definitely made a difference. It made a difference for me. So
wow.
So we got through. We got out the hospital. We got through with all the surgery, and now I'm at home, but without this plan for, removing the tissue and here, because we had to scrap that idea. We had to take everything off because it wasn't working. It wasn't attaching. Those blood vessels weren't meshing. And so I went home with essentially a hole that was open that I had to tend to. So now I got to put on my big nurse girl panties, and I had to pack that wound twice a day and keep it clean and all of these things that it just wasn't in my realm of possibility thinking that this is what was going to happen,
A whole year later.
And so so much time later, because again, and I think that's what I want to tell people, is the journey is so much longer than you can imagine.
I know exactly.
It's so much longer.
I know exactly. I put a deadline and a timeline, and I was very upset when I wasn't able to meet that timeline. No, I'm supposed to be done. and trying to
Yes.
rush through it.
I was
And
supposed to be done.
that's right. That's
Yes.
right.
So many
Things don't
times
always
I said
happen
that
as
same
planned.
thing. I was supposed to be done.
Yeah.
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 And so it was harrowing. So I got home and I'm doing this wound care, and I'm also a nurse who has control issues. So the home health nurse came one day, and I was like, I guess she can come.
I got it.
And she came, and she was like, I don't think you need me here. And I was like,
Yeah.
no, not really.
No.
But she was lovely. She was lovely. And so we sent her on her way, and I just continued to take care of it myself.
Girl, bye.
And, had my appointments. And then ultimately we decided to go back New Year's Eve, 2018. Oh, is that right? Oh, Jesus. So here comes the math that I got to work on.
It was
No,
probably
it was New
2019.
Year's Eve.
Was it 2019?
Because where are we? 20?
Because we're 20.
It
You
was,
and I
no,
hooked up
it was New Year's
2018.
2018. Because then New Year's Day, 2019.
Well, 2018 is what, yeah, it may have been 2018. Because you and I hooked up 2018 May.
Okay. And I hadn't had the stomach surgery yet.
Right. No, you hadn't had it at that
when
point.
We talked.
So
because you talked to me about your experience with
yeah.
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 So New Year's Eve of that year, we went back to do the third and what has been the final procedure at this point, where they were going to remove muscle from my back to essentially close the wound and, to create some space there. And so that was the plan. My plastic surgeon, bless his soul, he's like, we can, we'll make it so we can always go back later, do another implant, do another expander. And I was like, but so we're done. Love you. But I'm not doing this no more.
I can't. No, I
can't. I can't do it again. And I appreciate him leaving me the option to go back.
Right.
He's like, you never know. In 10 years, you may feel differently. And I was like, you're right. I might. But today, he was like, we're not going to talk about today because I don't want you to decide today.
That's right.
But just know we can if we want to. And I was like, okay, I can appreciate that. And I'll never forget his wife telling me at one of our appointments, his wife worked in the clinic, and she goes, Kanisha, I gotta say, over the years, there's only been about 5 people that have kept him up nights, and you are one of them. She's like, I have not seen him do so much consulting of his colleagues and up reading and studying, trying to get you a solution that the two of you would be happy with. And I was like, it just really, because again, remember I told you he wasn't Mr. Warm and Fuzzy. But what I tell you, by the end of it, he holding my hand. We knee eye to eye. I'm baking cookies. Like we have, our relationship has evolved.
That's a real thing, though. You can imagine a surgeon who has great intentions, and the surgery that he performed for whatever reason did not work out, and then he has to give you that call again, and then again, and then again. Imagine what he deals with as well. Wow.
And I could see in his face, I could feel in his presence that he just wanted me to be okay. And so he's like, all right, here's the new plan. Tell me what you think about this. This is what I'm thinking of. Like it really truly became a collaborative thing.
That's right.
By then. And so I will never forget, him and his wife and everybody in the office, and the young lady who was so cute, this girl, so cute, told me about the Nordstrom's program. Like, I mean, truly, it has been a journey for sure. But now we are just after my most recent mammogram, and everything is looking wonderful and great, and I'm still healthy and not having any troubles, and I'm taking tamoxifen, which a lot of people do, and I've had not one issue with it. Praise Jesus.
Amen.
And it's been great, and I think within these last within like the last year, really that energy piece is really coming back to me. So I would say today I'm at about 95% of how I felt prior to surgery
Wow.
and to all of this happening. So I'm pretty grateful for that. Now some days I get ahead of myself. Like I painted this kitchen and I needed a whole vacation after I finished that. And I was exhausted.
Yeah.
What I won't do again is paint another ceiling. But
Yeah.
I'm learning what I should and shouldn't be doing, but on a grander scale. You know what I mean? Like it's not just I come home from work and I'm spent, or
Yeah.
I do 3 things and I'm so tired. Like it's a reasonable amount of fatigue. It's still there, but it's definitely much better, and I'm dealing with it much better. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited.
I think my takeaway from your story is really the true strength of a woman, not just mentally, but physically and spiritually.
Yeah.
The fact
Yeah.
that you had a village to support you was key
Oof,
to this
yes,
journey as
yes,
well. The fact that you had
yes.
some medical background and the confidence to initiate some of these appointments
Yeah.
because of those relationships.
Yeah.
And just the fact that you never gave up. You did have moments where you felt defeated, but then you shook it off and you continued your journey. You never gave
you
up.
just gotta put your head down and get the stuff done. Yeah.
And on top of
And
all
definitely,
that, you were willing to help me and give me the gift that you gave me. That
listen,
I'm telling you,
it didn't even feel like a chore. I'm so grateful that Tammy.
But I was in such a desperate moment. I was in such a desperate moment hours before surgery. I mean, I had talked to someone, and they had told me they were going to connect me with someone that had the same surgery. And I was patient. It got to be the day before, and I hadn't talked to anyone.
Yeah.
You're the reason why I was able to sleep that night.
And you don't want to like harass people to get involved because you know what they're going through. But at the same time, you need some information.
I need some information, so I didn't want to.
Sure.
They ghosted me, and you were the gift from God. You were the reason. I want you to hear this. You were the reason why I was able to sleep that night. Because if I wouldn't have talked to you, I would not have slept that night. So I am forever grateful to you.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that little bit. Oh, that makes me feel so good. I'm so glad that just taking time to chat was helpful. And I think I remember watching you were on speaker and your mom was in the background. Did I make that up? I feel like I think I remember mom was in the background.
So what we did that night is our whole family came over and we prayed. We prayed. And that was the moment that my mother-in-law took our children, girl. Took our children for the time that I was going to be in surgery, of course. She took care of our kids. I remember as the door closed, I was sitting in the living room and I just busted out in tears. That I had held in the whole time, trying to protect them. Then I got on the phone with you, and those tears went away. That feeling completely left my body. And I was so grateful. I was so grateful.
So glad. Yeah.
So
and
let
I
me
mean,
ask
to
you,
even to that point. Oh, go ahead.
No, I want to hear what you have to say.
Oh, I was like, even to that point, like, just the thought that you had the help to come and get the kids and take care of them, because that's something, honestly, I hadn't considered the surgery that we had. You can't lift. No. You can't lift your baby.
I had a 9-month-old and a 2.5. So they left for a couple of weeks. When they finally came back, I was camouflaged and hiding the drains. They never saw any of that. And I was not able to, I was barely able to have them sit on my lap when they finally came home, let alone lift them. It was something. But back to you. I'm telling you, you were a gift from God.
You know, standing up straight is a feat. Standing up straight is a feat after that surgery.
Getting out of your bed by yourself, girl, Girl,
Oh,
please.
girl, I did not sleep in my bed for months because I
You
knew
probably slept in a
I wouldn't be
chair.
able to sit up.
In a
I slept
chair.
in a chair for months.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep.
I slept in
I
a chair
spent most
propped
of
up for
my time
months.
in bed with like 20 pillows, but I remember sleeping in a chair. It
So
was
many
probably
pillows.
more comfortable. Yeah, girl.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
want to ask you, as a final question, what would you say
Mm-hmm.
to a woman who was just diagnosed with breast cancer?
I think my biggest takeaway and what has been on my spirit to convey, because I've been fortunate because I work at a university-based place. I've had a
That's
lot of
right.
opportunities to tell my story. Because apparently it is quite unique to be a cancer nurse and then get cancer. Although we all know it's not unique.
It
Us
can be.
nurses who've been
Right.
through it, we know it's not unique.
No.
But, maybe not all of us have maybe the gift of gab, we'll call it. But essentially, I will run my mouth to anybody who will listen.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so I've been fortunate to tell my story on a few different platforms, and just being able to tell a person that they can do this. You can get through it. You can do this. You are stronger than you think. Because I think so often now, and I think maybe the rest of the world is becoming a little more aware of how race plays such a part in the care we receive and the care that we even seek.
Mm-hmm.
That I am hopeful that if one person can maybe tell a tidbit of this story to their friend who's going through something, or can, share this experience and have them help them. Like, if they see my brown face and know that
Mm-hmm.
you and I are here and we're
That's right.
happy and healthy,
Mm-hmm.
and like this doesn't have to be the death sentence that it is for
That's
some
right.
women of color, because there is so many barriers to care. So if
Mm-hmm.
just sharing our story can make somebody think that, okay, I can, they're young and cute and got jobs and doing things, like if they
Mm-hmm.
can do this, maybe I can get through this okay. And
That's
you
right.
can. You really
Right.
can. And it's in this current climate where, well, I would say a lot of other people are coming to realize that there is such a gap in between the
Mm-hmm.
way we live and the way some other people live.
Right.
I'm happy to be able to say that you got this. Like Nasha tells us, we got this. That's
Mm-hmm.
Nasha saying for us, we got this, and we do. We can do this. We can conquer this. We can get past it. We can move on to have fuller, greater lives. Like, it's doable. It's a journey. It's a
Mm-hmm.
battle. It's gonna have you reach into places you didn't know you possessed, but
Mm-hmm.
you can do this. It's in you. It's in you to do this. And so
If
if
only we looked.
one person, and I say this all the time, if one person can take that from this, then this whole thing was worth it.
We don't look like what we've gone through at all. I'll say that.
Girl,
The
listen.
epitome of
Why you
you
think I'm
don't
out here
look like
coloring
what you've
my
gone
hair? I'm
through.
trying to hide these grays that they tried to give me. The devil
Girl,
a lie. I'm cute.
that's right. Well, I admire your strength. I admire your strength. And you're such a beautiful woman inside and out. I'm so grateful
Oh,
that
so are
our
you, friend. So
paths
are
crossed,
you.
and I will love you forever.
Me too. I know. Same here. I will love you forever, always. Like, I'm so grateful that Tam put us together, because
Yes.
this was about, man, we gotta build community around all of
That's
these
right.
different aspects of our lives. And it's hard. I could not, my heart goes out to my patients that are trying to do it alone. Like, they haven't come to that come to Jesus moment where, like, no, I need help,
Yeah.
and it truly takes a village. It takes all of us together and praying from different areas and sending good vibes and just sharing stories so you don't feel like you're alone. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I went through this and you went through this and we had these different experiences. And I mean, even if it's just the tangible things, like, girl, go to Nordstrom's. Let me tell you where to shop for this, that,
That's
the
right.
third. Like, even if it's those things, I mean, I am full witness to, like, that little thing, that little tangible thing really is helpful in how you face this and how you deal with it.
That's right. Survivor Sundays with Kanisha Broadwater. Appreciate you so much.
Yay!
Breast
Oh my
Cancer
gosh, I love you
Awareness
so
Month.
much.
We
Thank you,
continue to
thank you,
heighten the
thank you.
awareness. You're welcome. Continue to heighten the awareness. Appreciate you so much for sharing your story.
Not a problem. Always, always. Thank you
I'm
so
about to
much for
call
reaching
you.
out for me to do it. This is
I'm about to call you
amazing.
right now. I'm about to call you right
Okay,
now.
yeah. Okay.
Love you.
All right. Thank you,
Okay,
y'all, for
bye-bye.
watching.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.